This is some big news that's coming out right now. It looks like Microsoft is going to be buying Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard shares have been halted with this news pending that's coming out on this. Right now, you can see Microsoft shares at 301.59. That's down 2.78%. Activision Blizzard jumping all the way to where that deal is anticipated to happen at $90 a share. This is a stock that closed at $65.39 on Friday. A company at that point with a market cap of just over $50 billion.
How will these ZeniMax assets help you with this latest Xbox launch, your Game Pass momentum, and xCloud?
Yeah, I mean, gamers love great games. You just mentioned we've got the Xbox consoles going on pre-order tomorrow for the next generation. Just last week, we added Game Pass cloud streaming so people can play this Game Pass library. General compute platforms like mobile phones. People should have access to the great content and services that are... Yeah, you know, we look at the $200 billion top-line TAM in the gaming business right now. We're a small percentage of that. That number's growing. We want to grow faster than the market, so we're investing to do that. And we're investing in three big ways. You talked about content. We want to outgrow the market, and we think we're really poised to do that.
On multiple platforms. And what I think investors should probably focus in on here, too, is you're talking about a business model shift. What happens to that 30% take?
You know, our model is about diversity, and we look at free-to-play games that work on our platform.
$1 billion.
To put it in perspective, that is a little bit less than what Sony makes annually.
Honestly, I don't care how much money you make. That's such a poorly worded phrase. I care what Sony gives me, and that's a banger console for an insane price to performance, awesome DualSense controller, amazing exclusives and options like a PS Portal or a PSVR 2. Which flash news? They don't force down my throat like Xbox did with Kinect. All right, let's get into the news, guys, because today it's an insane day for gaming. So, I've been hearing this buzz that PlayStation might drop their first State of Play for 2025 next month, like in February. The rumors coming from an insider called Nate the Hate, who basically got a rep for predicting the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal date. When people asked about Sony's plans, he said something like, "How's February sound?" It's still vague, but it's enough to get everyone talking. Of course, Sony hasn't officially confirmed anything, so we're kinda just left wondering. If it does happen, we'll probably see the usual stuff. Maybe new game trailers for upcoming PS5 or PSVR 2 titles, indie spotlights, and updates on those big, flashy games everybody's been waiting on. Also, maybe we'll get to see Marvel's Spider-Man 3 and Wolverine gameplay trailers. How cool would that be? It's not totally unusual for Sony to schedule a State of Play in the first quarter, but until they say something, I wouldn't go marking your calendar just yet. For context, Nate the Hate also mentioned that some Xbox exclusives might show up on PlayStation and the Switch in 2025, and other insiders seem to back that claim. He's not right 100% of the time, nobody is, but his track record's decent enough to keep an eye on. Another angle to consider is that 2025 already seems like a big year, especially with the Switch 2 stuff going on. If Sony wants to ride that hype train, a State of Play early in the year might be a smart move, but again, I wouldn't get too carried away. If and when Sony announces it, that's when we'll really know what's up. Like maybe they'll surprise us with some off-the-wall new IP or major third-party reveals. Are you hoping for this February 20th, 2025 State of Play? Do you think we'll see something big like Spider-Man 3 or Wolverine?
I will be ready.
So here's a cool bit of PlayStation news. Some of Sony's first-party studios might be using Guerrilla Games' Decima engine for their future games. You know, that's the same engine that powered Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. So we're talking about some serious tech here. Apparently, Guerrilla's senior producer, Astrid Hutchins, has been coordinating with other PlayStation studios that are either interested in or already working with Decima. One of the studios in the mix seems to be Bend Studio, who you might know from Days Gone, according to some LinkedIn profiles, because of course that's where leaks come from these days. Their unannounced project is being developed using the Decima engine. From what we've gathered, Bend Studio's next game is likely coming out this year, in 2025. A concept artist who worked on it mentioned the release window on their ArtStation profile. The game's also using motion matching technology, which means the animations are going to look super smooth and realistic. Think The Last of Us Part 2. The game itself, it sounds ambitious. It's supposed to be open world like Days Gone, but with cinematic quality facial animation, 3D audio, and maybe maybe even online multiplayer. There's even talk about next-gen lighting tools being involved, so it seems like they're really pushing the hardware here. A senior lead designer is focused on the open world and mission design, which is promising if you liked Days Gone's gameplay style. So yeah, Ben's studio might be cooking up something big with the Decima engine, and it's cool to see Guerrilla Games sharing their tech across Sony's ecosystem. What do you think? Could this be the next standout PlayStation exclusive? Remember when I told you things were going to get better? Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. Sony's been working hard behind the scenes, quietly improving the PSSR tech on the PS5 Pro. All those early complaints about shimmer and graphics glitches, they're being addressed step by step. Here's the thing, when the PS5 Pro first launched, some games with those Pro-enhanced updates ran into visual issues. And of course, the internet went wild with criticism. But like I said before, don't listen to every voice out there. Some people just love to stir the pot without knowing the full picture. Now, fast forward to this week. Star Wars Jedi Survivor just got a Pro patch, updating it to the latest version of PSSR. Developers are saying it's improving at a solid pace, with multiple updates already rolling out. Sony might not be shouting about it publicly, but they're making progress just like I said they would.
And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
Sony's clearly committed to making the PS5 Pro the best it can be. GTA 6 will be the biggest disappointment in gaming history. Alright, let's break this down. Back when Dan Houser was still at Rockstar Games, he dropped a comment that's now coming back to haunt him. And let's be real, it's got fans heated. Houser once said he didn't want GTA 6 to launch during Donald Trump's presidency. Well, here we are in 2025, Trump's back in the White House, and the game is set to release in fall 2025. So much for avoiding that scenario, right? Houser made these remarks back in 2018 when Trump was still in office, saying the political climate at the time was too intense for satire. He told GQ something like, "Everything is so absurd now. It's beyond satire. By the time we comment on it, the world's already moved on." Basically, he didn't think Rockstar could keep up with how fast things were changing. But here's the twist. Houser isn't even with Rockstar anymore. So fans are like, would he have delayed GTA 6 until after 2028 just to stick to his words? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, the fact that the game is dropping during Trump's presidency has stirred up debates about how much Rockstar will lean into political satire, or if they'll avoid it altogether to dodge controversy. Adding fuel to the fire, fans are already upset with the lack of updates from Rockstar. The first GTA 6 trailer dropped back in December 2023, but since then, nothing solid. We know it's coming in 2025, but the radio silence is driving people nuts. Then there's the backlash to Houser's original comment. Some fans think he was just making excuses to avoid taking on Trump directly, which doesn't sit well with players who love GTA's no-holds-barred take on politics and culture. On top of that, the game's going to feature the first ever female protagonist in the series, which is sparking its own discussions, both good and bad. Either way, one thing's for sure. The pressure on Rockstar right now is through the roof. What do you think? Will GTA 6 deliver the biting satire fans expect, or will it play it safe to avoid stepping on toes? So, Microsoft is basically starting this year just like it did last year, with layoffs. Yeah, according to Business Insider, they're letting people go from their sales, security, and gaming teams. Apparently, employees started getting those dreaded notifications about it on Tuesday. Microsoft's calling the layoffs small, but they're not saying how many people are actually affected. Insider Gaming tried to get more details, especially about how many people in the gaming division are being let go, but so far, Microsoft hasn't responded. If you remember, back in January 2024, Microsoft laid off almost 2,000 people from its gaming team right after they wrapped up the Activision Blizzard deal. And that wasn't all. There were more cuts throughout the year, including 650 people in September. They even shut down 4 studios in May, like Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. Interestingly, though, Tango Gameworks got bought by Krafton later and made a comeback. And it's not just Microsoft. Last year, the gaming industry as a whole went through a ton of layoffs. Almost 16,000 people lost their jobs across more than 160 companies. And this year, we're only 2 weeks in, and there have already been at least 10 layoffs or studio closures, with over 200 people affected if you count the estimates. So, yeah, it's pretty rough. What do you think is next for the gaming industry? It feels like these last couple of years have just been one hit after another. Microsoft almost shut down Xbox in 2021 before dropping $82 billion on Bethesda and Activision. So get this, back in 2021, Xbox's future was seriously up in the air. According to a new report from The Information, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella had a make-or-break decision to make about the company's gaming division. They could either go all in and acquire major studios to keep Xbox alive, or they could just shut the whole thing down. Yeah, like no more Xbox. Apparently, Nadella went with the first option, thankfully, and kicked off those insane purchases. Bethesda for $7 billion in 2021 and Activision Blizzard for $75.4 billion in 2023. These moves weren't just about growing Game Pass. They were literally about saving the Xbox brand. Here's the thing. Xbox was already shifting towards making gaming as accessible as possible. Nadella's been pretty clear about the whole play Xbox games on any device idea, with Game Pass and cloud gaming leading the charge. But behind the scenes, it sounds like there was real pressure for Xbox to prove it could survive, especially since Game Pass wasn't growing as fast as Microsoft probably wanted. The report also reveals that Microsoft set some huge goals for Game Pass. They're aiming for over 100 million subscribers by 2030, which is like triple what they have now. To hit that, they'd need to grow by 40% every year, which is a massive ask. And, they've apparently been struggling to get some major studios on board with the subscription model. Oh, and here's a twist. There's talk that all Xbox exclusives, like Halo, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and Gears of War could be coming to PlayStation this year. Like we could even see a Halo trailer for PlayStation's State of Play in February this year. Can you believe how crazy this sounds? And you know I said this a billion times already, and I still can't believe it. That's making people wonder if Microsoft's exclusivity strategy is actually working, or if they're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. So yeah, it's wild to think about how close Xbox was to being completely shut down just a couple of years ago. It feels like the acquisitions gave it a new lease on life, but it also sounds like there's still a ton of pressure for Xbox to prove itself. What do you think? Can the brand actually survive, or are we looking at a Sega situation here? Okay, so there's been some new info floating around about an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake. You know, the one with pirates and that whole Caribbean vibe? Yeah, it's one of the most loved games in the series because it nailed that mix of classic AC stealth action with epic pirate stuff. It's been almost 12 years since it first came out, so a lot of people are excited about the idea of a remake that actually takes advantage of modern consoles. Rumors about this remake have been going around for a while now. At first, people thought it might drop this year, but apparently it got delayed because Ubisoft is dealing with setbacks on Assassin's Creed Shadows. Ubisoft hasn't officially confirmed the remake yet, but some new leaks are making it sound more legit. So, this report from MP1ST claims the remake is being built using the Anvil engine, same one the newer games use, and it'll have new combat mechanics and updates to the wildlife systems. That makes it seem like this isn't just a quick visual upgrade. It could be a bigger, more ambitious project than people expected. Oh, and MP First didn't stop there. He also dug up info on a rumored Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake. Supposedly, it's getting a combat system inspired by Souls-like games, plus updates to stamina, stealth, and archery. People thought it might be announced during the Xbox Developer Direct this month, but yeah, that didn't happen. As for Black Flag, it's all still up in the air. Ubisoft is focused on getting Assassin's Creed Shadows out first. It was supposed to drop next month, but now it's delayed to March 2025. After that, they're doing some expansions for Shadows, so the earliest we'll probably hear about the Black Flag remake is later in 2025, maybe even 2026. Alright, so Nintendo just dropped the first details about the Nintendo Switch 2 in a video, and it's launching sometime in 2025. They didn't give a specific date though. The console looks a lot like the original Switch, just bigger. One big change? The Joy-Cons. Instead of sliding on and off like before, they snap onto the sides, and leaks are saying magnets might be involved. In the video, the Joy-Cons are black with colored accents, and they've got a new button under the home button. They also showed them being used kind of like a mouse. Oh, and the SL and SR buttons, they're bigger now, which is nice. There are other little upgrades too. On top of the Switch 2, there's a USB-C port next to the headphone jack, and the kickstand's been redesigned into a U-shape. The dock looks a bit more rounded compared to the original. They're also keeping the grip accessory, where you can snap the Joy-Cons together to use them like a traditional controller. As for games, the video teased what looks like a new Mario Kart title, but here's the cool part. It's backward compatible. You'll be able to play your physical and digital Switch games on it. Certain games may not work, disclaimer, so don't toss your old Switch just yet. Nintendo says they'll reveal more during a direct presentation on April 2nd, 2025, but no time's been announced yet. So, there's been this podcast with Kid Ellis and Krista Yang, and they're talking about all these Switch 2 leaks that have been popping up everywhere. Apparently, Nintendo's really not happy about it. Ellis says it's hitting them hard because Nintendo's always had this mindset that they could control everything. And Yang was like, yeah, they've always had this kind of dangerous attitude of, we're different. But honestly, these leaks are proving they're not so different after all. Nintendo's big thing is surprise, right? Like, they love to drop a trailer out of nowhere and blow everyone's minds. Ellis even said they used to sit through these 30-minute lectures about how important surprise is to the company. And now, with the Switch 2 stuff spilling out early, that whole vibe is kind of ruined. As for how Nintendo's handling it, Yang thinks they're beyond mad. Like, seriously upset about this. She's pretty confident it's like the worst kind of reaction internally because they put so much effort into keeping things under wraps. It's kind of understandable, though. With all the blurry images, leaks, and random insider posts floating around, it's hard to tell what's real and what's just someone making stuff up. And that's gotta be frustrating for a company like Nintendo, where everything is so carefully planned. What do you think? Should they have just been more open from the start? Or is this just how things are these days? Here's some cool Witcher news for you. Even after 10 years, around 100 developers who worked on The Witcher 3 are still at CD Projekt Red, and they're now working on The Witcher 4. That's like half of the original team from Witcher 3, which had about 200 plus people back in the day. Michał Nowakowski, the joint CEO of CD Projekt Red, shared this info recently, and it's got fans hyped. He also mentioned that some of these devs go all the way back to The Witcher 1 and 2, including his co-CEO, Adam Badowski, who's been involved since the series started in 2002. Pretty wild, right? Even better, the main story director and the vision holder for The Witcher 4 are the same folks who've been shaping the series since day one. So if you loved how Witcher 3 turned out, there's a good chance Witcher 4 will stay true to that vibe. Of course, it's not just old faces. There are tons of new people working on this one too. Last year, they said over 400 people were involved in making The Witcher 4, and that number might have gone up since then. CD Projekt Red is also planning to double their team size for the next Cyberpunk game, so they're definitely scaling up in a big way.